make him a household name. Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
Hello, I'm Lawrence Owen, and this is Colts Law. Now, so we have a little bit of information going on. So, Frank Reich has shown inherent respect towards Marlon Mack. As many of you know, Jonathan Taylor was drafted by the Indianapolis Colts. They even moved up into the second round, moved up in the second round to get to the 41st pick of the NFL draft to grab Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, by many, as you know, was seen as the best running back in this draft. Many comparisons to like Saquon Barkley and Adrian Peterson. But, despite the selection of Taylor, Frank Reich has shown inherent respect because of the way Mack has been handling the situation. He says there's definitely an inherent respect for the starter returning. And that's the way I see this. I see it as a 1-1 punch. The way the league has gone and the way role-playing has been evaluated in our league, it's made it prominent. Look at a guy like Nyheim Hines. We talk about Marlon and Jonathan, but what about Nyheim? He's such a good third down back, and that he'll play a prominent role in that. And in some ways, Hines is a starter. He's a role-playing starter. Well, when Reich told Mack immediately, as they were picking Jonathan Taylor, that they were picking another running back in the second round, they moved up to grab him, Marlon Mack response, let's go. His response wasn't something like, Melvin Gordon of, well, you're going to give me an extension right now where I'm going to hold out. No, Marlon Mack's not like that. Marlon Mack is a team-first type running back with an incredibly good way of going about things. He's team-first. He wants to help a team win. And that is the kind of locker room presence you want from players, especially when they're touching the ball as many times as Marlon Mack touches it. Now, many are going to say, hey, you know what? Doesn't matter what kind of person Marlon Mack is, Jonathan Taylor's still that much better, and he should be getting the carries over Marlon Mack no matter what. That, probably in training camp, Jonathan Taylor will take over running back one, or Jonathan Taylor will grab it, early in the season as he shows that he's that much better than Marlon Mack. Now, that's quite possible. That is quite possible, but we all must realize that there is things that Jonathan Taylor does not do well that Marlon Mack does very, very well. Now, you can check that out on YouTube on my breakdown of Jonathan Taylor. But I'm just going to throw a few things out at you. All right. Number one, Jonathan Taylor was never known for going outside the tackles on his runs. He ran right up the gut, right between the guards almost every time he touched. He never deviated from the play that was called. Never. Didn't matter if that hole was stuffed, if that line was crushed with a bunch of bodies. He just lowered his head and his shoulder, tried to push and get an extra yard or two. He almost never. I think I saw him break out twice in like 3 games that I watched. Like take off and go outside the tackles, breaking for the sidelines. He's kind of the Frank Gore style runner, where he looks for that tiniest seam that he possibly can between blockers and tries to squeeze through it. Now, in short yardage situation, goal line situation, obviously that is a very important thing. But outside of the red zone, you want to get as many yards as possible. Marlon Mack is great at that. Marlon Mack can take it between the tackles. I mean, he was like third in the NFL last year and the year before in yards after first contact. But the thing that made him so dangerous if the hole wasn't there, he was able to break it to the outside and pick up huge yards by going towards the sideline, by using his lateral quickness and his agility. And don't forget, Marlon has moves on top of moves. He's got side steps. He's got spin moves. He's got stiff arms. He's got whatever it takes. And he doubles up on him. We've seen him do double side steps. We've seen him do double spin moves. We've seen him take a straight up defensive end and stiff arm him straight to the ground on his way to the end zone. All right, Marlon Mack is no little petty running back that you can just throw off to the side and say, who cares? We have Jonathan Taylor. Now, don't get me wrong. Jonathan Taylor is bigger, faster, stronger. Jonathan Taylor averaged 6.7 yards per carry in college, and that says a lot considering that Jonathan Taylor had so many carries in college, like 750 carries in college. All right? When you average 2,000 yards in your 3 seasons in college per year, average, there's something to raise an eyebrow at. But it's obvious Jonathan does not have either the ability or the want to go laterally when a hole is not there on the offensive line at that line of scrimmage. Something else we must take in consideration, Marlon Mack, his first 3 years in the NFL, has had 535 carries, 2 fumbles. Last year alone, he had 247 carries, 0 fumbles. Jonathan Taylor, on the other hand, over his 3-year college career, 3 years, 16 fumbles. 16 fumbles. He had 5 fumbles last year alone. Now, everyone knows, if you follow the Colts, that a lot of people really like Wilkins. But everybody's seen what happened to Wilkins once he dropped the football on the ground. His carries disappeared for games at a time whenever he dropped the ball on the ground. Jonathan Williams has to shore that up. Now, don't get me wrong. Tom Rathman, the running back coach for the Indianapolis Colts, is a very good coach. He practices 2 things most importantly. 1, holding on to that football, making sure you don't drop it. And 2, pass pro. All right? Marlon Mack has increased dramatically over the last 3 years in pass pro. Jonathan Taylor is not known to be very good at pass pro, but he will have Tom Rathman teaching him how to pass pro. My personal opinion in this matter is you're going to see a lot of 2 running backs on 1st and 2nd and 3rd down with the Indianapolis Colts going into this because of the stable of running backs that the Colts have. Think about this. Could you imagine Phillip Rivers under center in pro formation with Jonathan Taylor behind him to his left, Marlon Mack behind him to his right? Could you imagine him doing a read option, looking over? If the defense is crushed in on the line, then he fakes the handoff to Jonathan Taylor up the middle and pitches it to Marlon Mack so that he does a nice little power sweep to the outside to gain lots of yards because everybody's crushed in the center. If they're spread out to prevent Marlon Mack from doing that, they hand that ball off to Jonathan Taylor right up the gut and watch him power his way for 5 or 6, 7, 8 yards. That is something that I expect to see a lot from the Indianapolis Colts this season. I mean a lot. The Colts are not going to just stop feeding Marlon Mack just because they have a running back with Jonathan Taylor. When Marlon Mack is one of the better talents on this Colts roster, and you want to put the best talent on the field you can, period. If that includes having 2 running backs, that's fine. If that includes having 3 running backs, that's fine. Go look at teams like San Francisco and Baltimore. You've seen Baltimore have 3 running backs on the field at the same time. Why? Because that's where the strength of that team is at. Same with San Francisco. Well, the Colts are no different. They have great running back core. Maybe one of the best running back stables in the NFL. So you want to put the best that you can on that field at once. There will be times when you'll see Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor sitting in the backfield, and Nyheim Hines on the field at the same time, maybe sitting in the slot position or something. 3 running backs on the field at the same time. Why? Because that is where the talent's at. Now, that's not to say that we don't have talent elsewhere. Obviously, we have T.Y. Hilton, we have Michael Pittman Jr., and Paris Campbell is now healthy and has been running routes and stuff for the last 2 months. And we can't forget about Jack Doyle, right? And Trey that we picked up in the offseason from Chicago, who was the Philly special tight end back in the Super Bowl. We've got talent. And oh my God, could you imagine having Trey and Doyle on the field? That's a big formation, right? Zach Pascal at wide receiver, because he's proven last year that he can be a reliable target. But he's also one of the best run-blocking wide receivers in the NFL. And then you got 2 good blocking tight ends up front in pro formation with Marlon Mack and Jonathan Williams sitting there. That's a stud formation that a lot of good things could come out of. So just because you think that Jonathan Taylor is with the Indianapolis Colts, don't necessarily immediately assume that he's taking the lion's share of the load. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. That doesn't even necessarily mean that Marlon Mack's out the door at the end of the season. Marlon Mack could be a smart guy. He might realize, hey, I get a lot of my stuff because of the offensive line. I'm with a team that is looking to be long-term, good, with Super Bowl aspirations. I got a great coach in Frank Reich who's able to scheme and do plays that allows for multiple people to have multiple successful seasons. He may want to be like, you know what, I'll take a team-friendly deal. He's already shown that he's team-friendly in the locker room and in his personality. Maybe he'll accept a team-friendly deal. Take, a contract of 3 or 4 years for maybe 2 to 4 years for anywhere between $4 and $6 million a year. I can see that from Marlon Mack. And could you imagine having that kind of a running back stable for an extended period of time? Come on, man. This is something that anyone that's a Colts fan needs to be excited about and needs to be pushing that narrative. Marlon Mack is a sure-handed running back with great lateral quickness. Is his top end super fast to where he could break away from corners and safeties at any time? No, he's not Jonathan Williams. Jonathan Williams has that speed. What Marlon Mack has is the ability to be out in the open field and make multiple people miss at once. Jonathan Taylor has the ability to make one guy miss and run over multiple people. But if he gets caught in the middle of a group of people, someone's tackling him. Granted, he's going to carry some people for a few extra yards, but Marlon Mack has shown the ability to have that lateral quickness and agility to be able to make multiple people miss in a row. That's just a dynamic combination. Dynamic. And the Colts need to use this and harness this throughout the 2020 season. It could make them a very dangerous team to deal with. I mean, we all seen how the Colts beat Kansas City last year, right? Run the damn ball. With the combination of Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, they could run the damn ball down everybody's throat, no matter how good that defense is. It wouldn't matter if it's New England's defense, if it's Baltimore's defense, if it's Chicago's defense, right? Denver's, San Francisco's. They'd still be successful running the football with this kind of combination with Frank Reich drawing up the plays. And if they're not, because they're bringing up safeties, remember, it's a read option. And Phillip Rivers is not afraid to throw that football. We all know this. Now, I want to thank everyone for joining the stream here. Hey, if you're watching on Sportscaster, right? If you're sitting here right now watching on Sportscaster, and like these guys here, Crockett Fan, Washington Red Girl, Kimmy, Pace Me Austin. If you're watching here on Sportscaster, please hit that favorite button, give me a follow, share the stream. I'd really appreciate that. All right. If you can't do that because you don't have a profile, go right up here, spend 30 seconds, make a profile here on Sportscaster. That way you can come back and give me a follow and like my streams. Don't forget to hit the search bar, check out USN. USN's got some great people there that cover a lot of good sports teams and players. Don't forget to check out my boys Joe Nubo and Ray Rout here on Sportscaster. They're part of Sportscaster News, just like myself. And if you're watching on YouTube, please, please, please smash that like and hit that subscription. Smashing the like, everyone knows, helps with the analytics. The more likes, the more people will be able to see the video, and that'll get me some exposure. And the more exposure means the longer and better videos I will be able to bring out to you. Don't forget to check out the description underneath the video here on YouTube. That way you could check out where you might be able to donate to me to help me out, help keep me going. I'd really love doing this, man, especially for Colts Nation and the rest of the NFL. Well, that's it for this stream. I appreciate everybody that sat here and hear me rant about the Colts stable. I love the direction the Indianapolis Colts are going, and I hope they're able to keep this together for years to come. And until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. This is Colts Law, and I want you to have a good one.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.